Good day, guys. In this video tutorial, I'm going to be showing the basic reinforcement for a roof slab. All right. Now, for this activity, I'm going to be using the project we are currently on, where we'll be reinforcing the master bathroom, the garage, the wash area, the kitchen, and the porch. Now, as per usual, we always recommend that before we make any alterations to any existing drawing that we make a copy thereof. So I'm making a copy, so that we basically have that to revert to should there be a need. Um, what we recommend that you do is, since the area that we're going to be reinforcing is such a small area in comparison to the roof framing, we will just cut away the roof framing portion, but we'll be leaving a little bit hanging over the slab just to show that it's actually there. To do that, I'm going to be using the polyline. Let me do that on the 0 layer. Doesn't matter which layer it's done on, but things that I wish not to keep, I usually put them like on my 0 layer. Alright, so here we go. Let me use polyline, and let me just outline the area that I intend to cut away. So I'm going to be polylining around the area to be covered with slab. But if you realize, I am cutting and leaving a portion of the remainder of the building. I don't want to just get that exact portion. I'm trying to get a little piece. So what I've done is I've drawn a little perimeter around that area. The porch as well. So let us cut away, say for example, this much across to perhaps that much, and let's stop it there. If anything, we can always go back and reduce it even more. Let's do a cut or a trim, and I want to trim anything between this line and this line. Right, so I'm going to enter, and I'm starting the trim. So I'm trimming anything else that crosses that. Let's deal with this one first. Alright, cutting away the roof reinforcement portion. Let's deal with this one now. Anything that crosses that, like that, like those, and those, these, and those. Whatever is left, since they didn't cross the cut plane or the cut boundary, then we'll just go ahead and delete those. So what we basically have left is just the portion of the building that will be covered with concrete. Let me move them a little closer so that we just have these to turn off my auto. Move them a little closer. So these are the two pieces of slab that we're going to be reinforcing. Let me remove my polylines, delete those, just to show that this is the slab area, but that's not the only portion of the building. The building actually continues, but I'm just focusing on the area that we're going to be covering. Same thing for this portion here. If roof framing would have been hanging there, but we're not concerned much with that. We're just going to be reinforcing these areas. Alright, I'm going to be doing the reinforcement for the porch first of all. To do that, the first thing you want to do is to offset where the reinforcement is expected to start, and I'll explain that as we go along later on. We expect a concrete cover of about 2 inches, so let's do an offset of 50 millimeters, and we're going to be offsetting the walls both sides. So wall on this side and the wall on this side. The roof line in as well. Here is a wall, wall in, wall out. Let's go again. Now wall in. But since there's not going to be a slab on this side, there is no need to do an offset on that side. We'll do an offset on this side and an offset on this side. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the roof framing so as not to be distracted by that. So from my layers manager, let me just go in and turn off my roof members, roofing members. I think it would be this one. There we go. Alright. Now the first bars to be drawn in would have been your main bars, and the main bars are the bars that they run our spans the short distance in the slab. So the main bars are the bars that will be laid, say, every 6 inches, 150 millimeters apart, across the slab in this direction. The distributing bars are the bars that will be laid atop the main bars, so they would span the length of the slab. Those are usually spaced of approximately 8 inches, 200 millimeters apart. To do that, however, let us go in and create a reinforcement layer. So from my layers manager, I've gone in. Let me expand that across here. I don't even want it embedded in that, so let me pull it away from my that didn't get pulled away. There we go. Let me go ahead and create a new layer. I want this layer to be my reinforcement, so let me go reinforcement, R-E-I-N, reinforcement, or steel bars if you prefer. I'm going to give those let's go with a nice, let's go with red. Alright, and the bars are supposed to be continuous, and we want these to be dominant on the drawing, so I'm going to go with a 0.08 millimeters for a line weight for my steel bars. So I want those to be dominant. Let's make that our current layer, and let's close our layers manager. Alright, now to put in my main bars, all I'm going to be using are just lines to represent them. So I go line, and I'm going from center to center. Now that be my reinforcement, but I happen not to be on the right color, so let me just change my layer to the current layer, and again let's change that back to the current layer as well, and that's good. Alright, so this represents the main bars that will be laid every 6 inches moving across the slab. Alright, we're just represented with one. Then we'll have our distributing bars, which, as said earlier on, these are the bars that will run the long distance or across the length of the slab. Alright, let those represent. The thing, however, is that the steel bars should go a little bit over the wall. Let me turn my auto on. So my steel bars are stretched a little bit up into the wall or over the wall. Alright, main bars are good. And let me extend my distributing bars a little bit over the wall so that they will actually be bent down into the wall. So those would have been my main and distributing bars. We could go ahead and assign different colors, you know, for easy identification. Let's say I want to put my distributing bars in green. The color have changed, but they are still on the reinforcement layer. So this would have been my main reinforcement and my distributing reinforcement, which will be laid like 200 millimeters apart, running in this direction. The next bars we're going to be placing in would have been our over support bars. All right, now these are the bars that are laid in the top of the concrete. These bars usually travel from the outer edge of the cantilever, and they will span 1/3 the distance of the room. Now let me go ahead and check how wide this room is, so we could determine what length over support bars would have been required. So the width across this room would have been 2100, while in this direction this room would have been 4200. Now in this direction it is 2100. 1/3 of that would be 700. So let me stretch this one. 1/3 of 2100, 700. Enter. And that would have been the over support bar, which is running on this side. Let's move it a little distance away from our main bar for clarity. Now these are bars that will be laid every like 300 millimeters apart. They would have been an over support bar, but again we're using one just to represent. Alright, and the other side as well, we don't have a cantilever or any other wall hanging over. Now that is getting low. Let me get rid of that. So let us take it from perhaps this line, and then we will move it away. Alright, let's move it some distance away from the main bar, and again that is going to be traveling 700 millimeters. 700 millimeters in that direction. Alright, so there we would have had both our over support bars. Same thing on the left, over support bar, which is measured from the inner edge of the wall. So let's draw it there and move it. Let's move it away to say, let's move it on this side. Yes, right here. And the length of that is going to be 1/3 the distance, and that's 4200. 1/3 of that would have been 1400. So let's stretch that 1400. Enter. That would have been the length of the over support bar on that side. Again, those would be laid like 300 millimeters apart across the short side. On the other side we could put another one, so let's get a piece. Prefer to put that, however, on, since this one is on this side, let's represent this on the other side, so let's put it on this side. And again, that's going to be 1400 millimeters inside that space, so let's go with 1400, and that's how long that over support bar would have been. The thing, however, though, is that over support bar must be represented as a hidden detail in plan. Alright, so we're going to be changing those over support bars into hidden detail, not continuous, and perhaps assign a different colors. Well, let me just remove these dimension lines here since they're no longer required. Alright, to change these, let's just highlight them, click on each. Alright, we could now go to our properties and assign a different color, perhaps yellow, but also the line type would have to be changed. Those would have to be in hidden detail. Alright, let's go with hidden. Yeah, and that's the over support main and distributing bar over the porch of the building. Alright. Since this is a slab though, the walls would also have to be in hidden detail line. So we could go in now and select those walls covered by slab. Alright, these are the walls that would be covered by concrete slab. These would therefore be in hidden detail as well. So I'm going to select all those walls, and I'm going to the properties and the line type, change from continuous, and I'm going to go with a hidden 2 for those walls. So we have those at a little bit finer property. This would have completed the reinforcing of the porch. However, there's still a need for it to be labeled. To do that, usually we would revert back to either our dimension or our text layer. I'm going to be doing this on my text layer. So let's get in there again. I get back into my text and I turn that on, making that my current layer. I'm going to be using line, and I'm going to be labeling first of all my over support bar. To do that, I'll just draw a line from somewhere across, perhaps here, and I'll draw it to the outer edge of that. Alright, we could also push this in. Let's stop, for example, there. Alright, and since we're referring to the over support bar, then there has to be a mark placed on that. Usually we would use a donut. So let's go into our rectangle, and we go down to donut. So that's what we want to represent our circle. It says specify inside diameter for the donut. Since we want this to be a solid, then the internal diameter, let's make that the 0. In other words, no hole. Enter. Specify outside diameter. Let's go with 100 millimeters, because we perhaps want that to print at perhaps about 2 millimeters on sheet. So let's go with 100 millimeters, and we give an enter. We would have gotten a donut, and we could just place that on our over support bar as marker. That's what we're actually referring to. Let me just drop a donut outside here, so we could just copy and paste that one. Then we'll do our labeling. To do that, we go into our annotate, tab, and ensure that we are in the text 150 or whatever you have called yours, because that's what we're going to be using as our labeling. From your home tab, however, we go over to our multi-leader task bar here from the annotation, and again you want to ensure that your leader is represented by the 1 in 50, or again whatever you have called it. Just use your multi-leader, and we're going to be labeling at the end of this bar, and wait for that to pop out. I'm going to be typing that bar, which is diameter. Let's go symbol diameter 13 millimeter mild steel over support bars at 300 millimeters and center. Alright, let's put that as in a double line. So let's go with an enter right there, and that would have been labeling for that particular bar. Alright, we would also have need to label the distributing bar, which also runs in that direction, but that would perhaps be labeled on the other side, because the text would have occupied pretty much most of that side. To do that, again, I could draw a line running across, stopping perhaps here, and let's push this end back neatly on there. Alright, now since I'm labeling my distributing bar, which is this green bar, let me copy my donut, or I could even have copied the one that I had already placed, but let's get this new one, and I'm going to be pasting that on my distributing bar right here. Alright, so that I can now label my distributing bars on this side. To do that, again, I go back in my multi-leader, and again I push up and I type. Again, this is going to be diameter 13 millimeter. It's mild steel, and this is now the distributing bars. Alright, and these are going to be placed at, let's say, 200 millimeters on center. For good measure, again, let's put that as a double text. Enter. Let's space it a little distance away. Let's say about that. Alright. I'm not too concerned that the fact that it crosses these, because these are not even walls in question, so we could even make those shorter, you know, get started to get them out of the way. Alright, but we could also use the same label to catch this one on this side. Let me show you what I'm referring to. If we were to just put another dimension line, oops, that's not quite where I would want it. Let's start it, say, about here. Alright, and if we were to put another one, say here, let's move it over a little bit. I wouldn't want it that close. So if we move this over a little bit, say to here, right, we could add another arrow to this text to pick this one up as well. So we would copy again the donut. Working this way would save a whole lot of time and effort. So I'm going to be labeling those over support bars, but I'm going to be using the same label we have here. To do that, I just add another arrow. So I select on this, I go to here, and it says add leader. So I hit on that, and it gives me another arrow that I could now use to put a knot. Alright. Let's see if we could stretch this arrow a bit until it's straight. Let's turn my snap off. I like my arrows pretty much straight. If I straighten one, then I mess one up. Alright, but that's alright for now. So I've used the one label, you know, to basically capture both over support bars. My main bar and my over support in this direction still have not been labeled. To do that, again, we do likewise another line across here, perhaps. Right? Another line across here. Let's stop. Turn my snap on, and we could use that to capture our over support bars. So again, let me copy one of my donuts, holding it the center, and let's paste that there. And we could now decide to put our label either on this side or on this side. I'm going to go with this side. To do that again, I use my multi-leader connected at the end here. I pull until I get my arrow, and again, that is my, or we could also even copy a text that we already have and use that. But let me go ahead and type it in again. It's diameter 13 millimeter. Alright, it's supposed to be mild steel bars. These are supposed to be our over support bars. Over support bars. And we're going to be placing these at 300 millimeters on the center. Alright, let's give that a double line. Alright, and that could have been that. Alright. Again, we could have used the same label to capture this one up here if we were to just pull across here and carry an arrow downwards towards this text here. Let me go ahead and label my main bar. I'm going to be running my I'm going to be running my dimension line somewhere in this region here. For clarity, let's clean it up to here. Alright, I'm now going to be labeling my main bar, which is the red bar. So let me copy a marker. Alright, let me copy a marker, and I'm going to be placing it right there, marking my red bar. And again, I could choose to either put my label on this side, or I could put it on this side. I'm going to put it on this side again. This time, however, I'm just going to be copying the text. Let me take that and let me paste it here to label that. The only difference here, however, is that I am now referring to my main bar and not over support. So let me go in and change it from over support to my main. And it is not at 300, it is at 150, and that would have satisfied that. Alright, the only bar which is still unlabeled would have been this bar over here. And to do that, again, let me put a dimension line across. Let me neat up this end a little bit, and on this side we're going to be placing our over support label. To do that again, I'm going to just be copying this one, however, and let me hold it at the point of my arrow. Let me drop that one here, and let me just pull the text towards the other side of that, say to about here. Alright, and that would satisfy that. No need for any editing because I've copied the same text. Let me copy a marker and place on that, and all steel bars would have been labeled, alright, for the porch. But we need to indicate, however, that the distributing bar forever, which is our green bar, that the first one should be laid here and subsequently 200 millimeters thereafter. So to do that, let me just create a little architecture tick. Let me go with a cool 125 in that direction, and let me copy that. Let's copy that. Let's do a rotation of it. Let's rotate it at an angle, say, let's turn on my thing, and let's go with 45 degrees. Oh, 45 degrees. Let's move it back on to cross with that one, but I want it done at center, so center to center. There I have one. Now, that could now be used. That could now be used. Let me make copies of it now, holding it at center. Now, say I'm referring to my distributing bar. The first distributing bar will be laid starting here, and we lay them 200 millimeters apart. Oh, sorry, my over support bar, we lay them 300 millimeters apart to this point here. Then we stop, start again here, and the last one would have been laid here. For our distributing bar, however, the first one is laid in here. I've messed that up. Out here and out here. The other one is going to be in here. Alright, distributing over support. I think I messed this one up because these two were not supposed to be there. I was calling out over support bars, and over support bars stop on the inside. Alright, so I have all of those. I'm going to now be placing my architecture tick on the vertical ones. So let me just copy this out and do a rotation of it. Let me go and rotate with my ortho turned on, so it is rotated perfectly upright. And let's now do copies of it. Let's copy, and I like to copy with my auto off. Now I'm referring to my over support bars again, and remember that the over support bars are only done on the inside. Alright, over support are only done on the inside. This is now my main bar, so that's inside because there is no outside on this one, and here, and again here, and here. That would complete the roof reinforcement plan for the porch. Just know that these lines can now be removed. Alright, so let's now go in and delete these lines. We had just put them so as to know where to stop our main and distributing bars. But now that our architecture ticks are in, we can now go back in and remove those lines. Alright, and that is complete. Let's clean that up. Let's clean this up. And there we go. Oh, one more cleanup, and that would have completed our roof reinforcement plan over the porch. Similarly, the roof reinforcement plan will be done for the remainder of the building. Alright, it's just that, however, bearing in mind that the building should be reinforced individually, the rooms should be reinforced individually. However, there are cases where we can gang spaces. So if we look for similarity, for example here, in reinforcing, we could reinforce these two spaces as one. Yes, but then we would perhaps choose to reinforce these two as two separate spaces, using this as the main direction, distributing direction. For the garage, we could use this as the main direction and the distributing direction, while ganging these two spaces together, then we would use this direction as our main direction and this entire direction as our distributing direction. Alright, I'm going to end this video as roof reinforcement 1. For roof reinforcement 2, we'll be looking at again reinforcing the remainder of the structure. So until next video, that's it for now, guys.